Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the possibility for us as Germany's largest NGO in environmental affairs to have the opportunity to contribute to this conference. And we thank the organizers that they have not feared to invite us. We are looking for a chance to be your partners on the way to an environmentally sound harbor. But we know, like in a marriage, there are moments in which not every truth is welcome. So I will try to find the right words to bring our perspective from the environmental perspective in a way that I can avoid divorce petitions. Before I go into details, I want to inform you about who we are and what we work on. The NABU is the largest environmental NGO in Germany. We have about 540,000 members and donators, and there are some 36,000 volunteers who work for us in smaller and larger nature reserves. And we are also a strong voice for the environment. Founded 116 years ago in the year 1899, we originally focused on bird protection. One reason why NABU is the German partner of BirdLife International. NABU is, among other topics, quite successful working on port and ship-related issues. We have been running a campaign since 2009. We looked for a slogan which was as inoffensive to ship operators as we could make it. This stinks. Clean up cruise ships. If you perceive it too offensive, you should have seen the other ones. In 2013, we started another campaign aiming to foster stricter regulations and technical solutions for the container shipping business. At the IMO, we regularly participate in the working group on black carbon. The third project we're running is, in this context, the Life Plus project, Clean Air in Ports. And you might imagine that we are very proud that this is the title of this session. Now, why act in terms of emissions from ships and ports? The first message I like to make is air pollution is dangerous. In the past, CO2 as a major contributor to global warming mainly seemed to be important for decisions. Meanwhile, sea and port-related emissions like NOx, SOx, particulate matter, or soot get more into the focus. The awareness has undisputed increased throughout the last years. Hardly anyone in the maritime business is denying any negative influence of air pollution on health, environment, and climate anymore. The World Health Organization confirmed diesel exhaust as carcinogenic. SOx, for example, is a respiratory irritant. NOx emission increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. It's dangerous for the heart. Or diminish the function of lungs and foster asthma. And in general, morbidity and mortality increases due to comparatively high amount of particulate matter. Soot is another tricky issue. Black carbon emissions, especially from shipping or port railway connections with diesel engines without any exhaust treatment, increase the probability of higher rates for cancer or even Alzheimer's disease. So if cruise companies want to make their cruises unforgettable, they should better act against the soot emissions that will help against Alzheimer's of their clients. Ultrafine particles with a size of less than 0.1 of nanoscale size are so far not regulated at all, and also particles with a size of 10 to 300 nanometers are neither measured nor limited by the authorities. But they are taken through the lungs into bloodstream and further to heart or brain. And if you think an object of that size cannot cause injuries or death, try giving your wife a diamond ring that size as a birthday present. In terms of environment, the eutrophication of coasts and water bodies, the acidification of soil, and declining forests are major consequences from NOx, especially in coastal areas, and SOx is to be known harmful to plant vegetation. And soot from shipping has also negative influence on the climate. Soot is carried for hundreds of miles, covers ice and snow in the Arctic, and consequently lowers the albedo of the sunlight. So emissions from shipping are, in addition to the hazardous consequences for human health, responsible for about 40% of the Arctic warming. Now, what is the dimension of the danger? From the graphics on the right of that slide, you can see that European limit values, and I assume as well in most other parts of the world, are weaker than what the World Health Organization recommends. And the World Health Organization is not even known to shout for the strictest limit values. Due to 420,000 people dying each year prematurely of bad air quality in Europe, from these about 50,000 only from shipping emissions, there is definitely an enormous potential for reducing health costs. On Monday, I learned from an EU expert that in comparison with traffic accidents, 10 times as much people die from air pollution. If you see the estimated health costs of approximately 760 billion euro per year due to bad air quality in Europe, it is neither ethically nor economically reasonable to expose citizens to that amount of air pollution. This is the opposite of polluter pays principle. Today, the European citizens have to pay for their health, but in the future, we hope on investments for clean air and European health through the shipping and maritime industry. We hope so because at the end, these investments will be refinanced through the customers through a little bit higher prices for transportation. And if customers can save money for healthcare, they can spend more money for goods and for transportation. Now, the next message, ports are really important for air pollution. On the slide, you can see why ports are so important. If you take a look at the graphics on the right side of the slide, you can see the segmentation of emission sources taken from the official air quality plan of the city of Hamburg from 2012. The checkered parts are the amounts of PM10 and NOx from sea shipping only. PM10 has a share of 17% of all emissions in the city of Hamburg, NOx of 38%. If the portion from other diesel-driven and port-related sources like port machinery, inland ships, trucks, locomotives, and as well non-road mobile machines, most of them without particulate filters or catalysts, would be added, the numbers emitted on only 10% of the total city area would again be higher. As the city of Hamburg has a general difficulty to meet the European requirements for clean air in the city, more options to improve the situation in the port have to be taken into consideration. Some political decision makers and port authorities are aware of the problems and have already implemented various measures to improve their air quality in general. Yesterday, we heard some really good examples from different ports. Many technical measures or regulatory instruments to improve the air quality can already be found all over the world. I have to admit that some measures, like a worldwide use of low sulfur fuel for ships or other alternatives like LNG, might be more expensive for ship owners or ports. But we know also that no action is more expensive for citizens, the environment, and the climate. So it is also a question of cost allocation. I have to admit, already more than 3 decades ago, it has been politically acknowledged that For example, street-related emissions have negative impacts on health, environment, and climate. Stricter regulation in Europe, but as well in the United States, fostered various technical solutions such as filters, fuel change, or even electric drives. So why don't we have similar regulations for ships, inland ships or non-road mobile machines, if we know that their emissions are harmful as well? Some answers seem to come from the Sleeping Beauty, who was sleeping for 30 years and is now repeating the words from the early 80s. There are no solutions. It is technically not feasible. It is too expensive. But many measures are not only technically feasible or environmentally necessary, many of them are as well economically reasonable and have, besides all positive effects for cleaner air in ports, an astonishing near-time return on invest. So why wait to install wind turbines wherever possible, to provide terminals with green energy for their automatic guided vehicles, their onshore power supply, their fully electric car fleets? Why wait equipping whole terminals with LEDs, best supplied by solar panels on thousands of square meters of warehouse roofs? As an NGO, we have experienced that it often seems less to be a lack of offers and opportunities. It seems more to be a lack of knowledge, examination, and good decision. More incentives for technical innovation in test runs are needed, as well as smart and creative tools to finance such technical solutions. First movers for the use of cleaner technology need to have a bigger financial benefit. But besides all that, we want stricter limited values for all relevant emissions, especially for black carbon, more control for compliance, and emission inventories for ports with a baseline today to estimate if measures implemented really achieve the desired effects in the future. Finally, and this is addressed to this conference especially, finally, we need an effective cooperation of ports all over the world to prevent that low environmental standards are used, or I should say misused, as an incentive to attract ship owners. What should be done? IMO should ban HFO all over the world and install sectors, including Mediterranean Sea, but as well neckers all over the coastal areas. We need best practices everywhere. Many good examples can be found all around the world. The port of the future has to have most of them implemented. We would love to see a competition between the ports and harbors, not only in number of containers, but also in leadership of sustainability. We need the implementation of cost-efficient measures such as the electrification of terminals with renewables wherever possible. And we need networking and knowledge exchange. The NABU experience in the Clean Air in Ports project is that there is still a lack of awareness and knowledge about possible measures and feasible best practice examples. We need a lot more cooperation, networking, and knowledge transfer between ports. Finally, fun, short suggestion for some serious reading. On the 1st of June, so only some days ago, we published our manual from the Life Plus project, Clean Air in Ports, this one. A friend of mine told me everyone would be sure to pick up a copy of the manual if we include one thing, a Sudoku. But we decided against it. Instead, you will find a compilation of the best practices in ports and various possible measures. Whoever is interested, we brought a stack of copies and would be glad if we can attract your interest. The Hamburg Port Authority was as nice to present this brochure at her booth in the entrance. Our opinion is, if we all work together, we can achieve better technical solutions, better air in ports and cities, and so contribute to a better world. Thank you for your attention.